many parallels can be drawn between life and death. For one, the only predictable characteristic the two exhibit is their unpredictability. While some pass quickly and quietly, others endure a long, painful process. With this, the opportunity to avoid any discomfort arises as some make the decision to end their lives through the administration of physician-assisted suicide. Others, however, are not so fortunate and are denied the opportunity to do so due to rigid legislation. Good morning. My name is Carolina Carrette, and these are my colleagues.
I'm Brian Pingle.
I'm Scarlett Gillen.
I'm Adam Siegel.
And my name is Sophia Ramirez. Physician-assisted suicide is a deliberate act of putting an end to a patient's life who is enduring an incurable or painful disease or condition. This practice dates back to ancient Greek and Roman times when it was highly supported. However, Hippocrates created the Hippocratic Oath, a widely known Greek medical text that was created for physicians to swear to uphold and oblige by certain principles and ethical standards, including forbidding the act of physician-assisted suicide. Over time, this practice has gone a long way. In 1994, Oregon became the first state to legalize this practice, followed by Washington, Vermont, Montana, DC, California, and Colorado. Though only 6 states have legalized this practice, other states are still in the works towards its legalization, shown by the states in orange. Each state has similar requirements and obligations that must be met, such as being a resident of the state, being at least 18 years old, and having 6 or less months to live.
As Sophia explained, physician-assisted suicide goes back thousands of years. On a separate note, organized religion is just as, or even older than this practice. Belief systems such as Christianity and Hinduism have been consistent in our history since our beginnings and are the center of believers' lives. Belief in God, or multiple gods, often has an effect on whether or not one believes physician-assisted suicide is ethical. But how does this affect legalization? And in what specific ways does this procedure undermine the beliefs of the American people? Religious individuals live their lives under rules specific to their personal faith. Most of you have probably heard of the 10 Commandments, the quintessential laws that Christians are bound to. One of the most important items on this list is thou shalt not kill. The act of murder is a crime that is unforgivable in the eyes of God. Suicide is self-murder and is viewed as the same sin. This perspective molds the way Christians view physician-assisted suicide and their primarily negative opinions on it. While the Hindus don't believe that suicide leads to condemnation as the Christians do, they certainly don't condone it. In the Journal of Criminal Law and Criminology, Christina Trina explains that when a Hindu commits suicide, even if for a good reason, there is a shift in the circle of life, death, and reincarnation, creating discourse in the next life. Their memory is often looked on with disdain, as they believe suicide is the easy way out. With societal pressure and the belief in reincarnation, Hinduism disapproves of physician-assisted suicide. This poll by the Pew Forum suggests that those who are unaffiliated with organized religion are far more likely to be in support of physician-assisted suicide, while the opposite is true for believers. These factors all coincide to form the main issue. Physician-assisted suicide violates a very sacred element of both Christianity and Hinduism, and that's the sanctity of life.
As Scarlett mentioned, the beliefs of the average American are important, but the beliefs of physicians who must assist in suicide are just as crucial. According to a study by the American Society of Clinical Oncology, only 22% of physicians support assisting in suicide. Think about it. Less than a quarter of physicians are willing to do something that very well may be legalized. In fact, the American College of Medicine and American Society of Internal Medicine claim that the legalization of physician-assisted suicide would undermine the patient-physician relationship and the trust necessary to sustain it. It would alter the medical profession's role in society as well as endanger the value our society places on life, especially the lives of incompetent, disabled, or vulnerable individuals. Dr. Edmund Pellegrino, a university professor of medicine and medical ethics, claims that the legalization of physician-assisted suicide is a slippery slope to legalize murder. While this claim may seem rather bold, note that it comes from an academic professor in medical ethics as well as a former physician. And if something can comprehensively be called murder, then it should not be legalized. In addition to the ethical and moral boundaries that physician-assisted suicide pushes, the financial savings are problematic. The cost of suicide drugs are only $40, whereas the cost of hospice care per month is $10,000. A patient's family, their insurance company, and possibly the government might urge a patient to commit suicide. Furthermore, the whole basis for physician-assisted suicide is flawed. Societies that authorize suicide as a choice place pressure on patients to do the right thing and kill themselves. It's even seen as dying with dignity. not only when polled did the majority of Americans agree that these are not valid reasons for committing suicide, seeing suicide as a solution will only undermine the willingness of physicians in society to show compassion and address their patients' pain and concerns. In fact, the majority of patients that do commit suicide don't do so because of pain or future pain, but due to concerns like loss of dignity or becoming a burden on others. As Sophia mentioned and outlined by the Hippocratic Oath, a physician's job is to heal and preserve health. Anything against that principle would be characterized as a violation of the responsibilities of a physician, as well as a gross misuse of power.
As Adam noted, those with terminal illness might feel pressure to end their lives in order to save their family money or die with dignity. One might think this would push those who belong in special groups, such as the disabled, terminally ill, or racial and ethnic minorities towards physician-assisted suicide, but according to a poll by Gallup News, as of 2015, 61% of those aged 55 and older agreed that physicians should be allowed to assist patients in suicide if the patient cannot be cured and is living in severe pain, or if the patient requests it. Additionally, 67% of Hispanics and 53% of African Americans believe physicians should be allowed to assist terminally ill patients in suicide. If the group of people polled, comprised of both minorities and the elderly, is in favor of physician-assisted suicide, it's safe to say that they wouldn't be pushed into doing it, not including those who wouldn't be inclined to do it, as Scarlett mentioned, due to religious reasons. As this table curated by the Journal of Medical Ethics shows, the only evidence for heightened risk of physician-assisted suicide in Oregon, one of the few U.S. states to have legalized it, would be those with AIDS. Despite what Adam declared earlier, there's no evidence of heightened risk for vulnerable or incompetent individuals, including the elderly, uninsured, poor, or racial and ethnic minorities. Contrary to popular belief, those who died by physician-assisted suicide in Oregon between 1998 and 2002 were more likely to be college graduates, Asian, younger, divorced, and have cancer or ALS. This observation, along with the aforementioned statistics, support the notion that the legalization of physician-assisted suicide across the United States would not target special groups, but would instead target their younger, wealthier, more educated counterparts.
The issue that arises against physician-assisted suicide is the potential threat of healthcare. The U.S. National Library of Medicine's Anna Savosky published an article that immensely displayed the increase of percentages to have skyrocketed over the decades, as Adam had mentioned previously. This proves that budget cuts would predominantly rule in favor of physician-assisted suicide. The cost savings recorded from the New England Journal of Medicine's Margaret P. patent is $627 million by the 1995 mark. From the same source, families could save up to $15,600 alone. This accumulates to $990 million savings nationwide. Now, introducing Princeton University Press's Jack Terrican, a doctor who has performed 130 physician-assisted suicides. He claims that everyone has a right for suicide because a person has a right to determine what will or will not be done to his or her body. Morality in this instance approves of physician-assisted suicide through apparently the logistics of personal decision and the right to human association. But with a will to die, there's a will to initiate it. Wade and Smith from Augustana College discusses the fact that physicians do not have to undergo physician-assisted suicide if it is against their will, nor do patients if they do not want to push through with it. Ultimately, we're calling for the legalization of physician-assisted suicide nationwide. Clinics can register as physician-assisted suicide friendly so that patients and physicians who do not approve the practice do not have to be associated with it. The states who are currently upholding physician-assisted suicide shall continue on with the procedure as they have been exhibited to meet the qualifications for it. To forbid it to go against the Hippocratic Oath, ethical, and religious concerns addressed, we are disclosing the morality in physician-assisted suicide through the freedom of choice. Thank you.
Perfect. You're good. All right, again, I'm going to go my right to left, your left to right. Let's see. What is an example of a compelling argument from one of your peers' individual reports that you decided to exclude from your team presentation, and why?
In Brian's initial presentation, she had a statistic about Medicare and the cost of it with her economic lens, and we found that we were crunched on time, and so we chose to exclude it because it wasn't completely necessary with the solution.
Okay. Describe how the content of the team presentation was changed as a result of your group discussions and planning.
In order to streamline our presentation, we decided to exclude a portion of Scarlett's piece on religion that looked into the effects on religions other than Christianity and Hinduism, as both Christianity and Hinduism are more predominant in the United States, and including other ones wouldn't really be beneficial to our presentation.
Okay. Brian, would you change anything in your group's norms? And how would you expect that to improve your overall team presentation?
I would expect that our scheduling habits would change due to the fact that each of us have different types of scheduling times where we are caught up with our own schedules, such as Adam, he had clubs that he had to attend to, which he was the leadership portion in, which I did as well. So in terms of time management, I would change that in order to make sure that our group had different dynamics that would coincide with the fact that we could make our presentation more successful.
Thank you. Adam, and what is a way in which your team's resolution makes you think differently about your overall research? Your individual research.
Our team's solution to legalize physician-assisted suicide actually conflicted with my claims of how it was ethically immoral and why it shouldn't be. But what really made me change was that after I read Carolina's research paper and what she was going to say in her presentation, where she discusses that actually people who are targeted for physician-assisted suicide are actually wealthier college graduates, Asians, instead of what I was claiming that they were incompetent people who are also disabled. It really made me believe in our solution that we should be legalizing it everywhere through the freedom of choice.
Thank you. So, what was the strongest counter-argument to the solution your team identified, and why so?
Adams was the strongest counter-argument to the solution because it brought up the ethical points on why physician-assisted suicide is not ethical, and the reason that physicians should do everything in their power to keep the patient alive, no matter the cost. As he said, that physician-assisted suicide is only $40. I believe his argument was.
Okay, thank you guys.